and coming down to Florida and coming down to more diverse communities who have not been able to be out in public. Sometimes folks move into the area and can't even believe, walking down Main Street in Sarasota, how many great, same-sex couples they're seeing holding hands. And that we want to celebrate that and honor that. But to get there, we do have to remember folks are at very different places. And when we hear those stories and we see those shows like John Quinonez's, that those are champions. When folks are willing to intervene in a restaurant or somebody says something just, hateful and wrong in a grocery store line, my hope is, and what I've been focusing my work on is to say, quite frankly, those are the moments you have to stand up. Being an ally when you're out with, or you love and accept your gay brother or your lesbian aunt and you donate, money to organizations doing the work, that's great. We need that. But I think we need next level work. And I want to encourage people to be champions for our LGBTQ plus community. What if there's a 13-year-old, trans kiddo behind you in the line and you're the one that steps up. They hear the same thing you hear and you step up and you tell that adult in front of you that's saying some transphobic, awful things. That's not okay. That child will hear that and hear you standing up for the community. Might not say anything, but it matters. You never know who is around you who needs that. So standing up and doing the work when no one is looking, that's the level of champion that I hope doing this work and talking about it in the community creates. And I've absolutely seen examples of that. But until we turn the tide on discrimination, until unfortunately we see our mental health statistics, our anxiety, depression, and our suicide rates for our LGBTQ plus youth go down dramatically, until the next generation believes that this country and our communities embrace them and support them, we got to keep doing the work. And frankly, going local and providing local trainings, seems like the best use of our time, because, there are pockets all over the country that just wouldn't be willing or wouldn't embrace a campaign like this one.
Exactly.
But Sarasota has been very embracing, and we've had folks down here doing this work for decades. Shannon has been putting on the Harvey Milk Festival for over a decade, and we've got lots of other community organizations that have been around. Also Youth has been supporting our youth for over 25 years. We've got new organizations forming, and this greater visibility can only be great for the community. And training our allies to be champions, it's an amazing opportunity. So, of course, now, we are navigating a changing world. So I do balance that and think about how we're going to do this work over the next few months. But we as community leaders are talking about it and planning for a time when we can come out of our homes, no pun intended, and be a community again, right, and get back to the work. But just as all this was launching, I will say, unfortunately, we have had to postpone some of our trainings and our community events, but we'll be back out doing the work as soon as we can.
I wanted to. This is along the line here. Question: when you're doing your diversity and inclusive training, do you also cover the area of conversion therapy, which in Florida is still legal, unfortunately, and trying to educate people that it's not real. You just don't do this.
Yeah. So, I've been advocating in the state for, decades. I don't always get into conversion therapy in the training, but, the difficulty is, I have done, 15-minute sort of very brief presentations up to 3 or 4 hour trainings for, 200 plus, law enforcement officers and first responders. depending on how much time is provided, right, each organization is going to decide, what can they give you. And it might be just 45 minutes at a staff meeting. You can only cover so much, but there are always, hopefully we've got time at the end for question and answers. And this does come up from time to time because, it's on the news. We're talking about it. We've seen so many states across the nation put in place conversion therapy bans. But we do sometimes get into a discussion. Folks do ask tough questions, and I try and address them from my work as a community advocate and as somebody who goes to Tallahassee and meets with legislators to say, hey, this is where we are. But I do provide research. I do provide statistics from the Youth Risk Behavior Survey and look at what our numbers look like in Florida for our LGBTQ plus youth. We have more young folks identifying as LGBTQ plus. We've got more youth, frankly, identifying as queer, putting, the whole community under a much broader umbrella. And sometimes in the audience, we have, older folks that are like, I'm still not comfortable with that word. And we have to talk about how, that word has been reclaimed in our community and how powerful that is. So honestly, it's a very fluid thing. If we get into Q&A, it'll depend on where that audience is, how big a group it is, if it's a smaller group, how much time we have. But all of these very relevant, in the media issues absolutely come up. We had a lot of awful bills come through other than the conversion therapy legislation that unfortunately didn't make its way through. We had a lot of supportive LGBTQ legislation in Tallahassee this past year, but we had way more negative, trying to legislate discrimination. We had way more stuff up there that would have hurt the community. Our legislators, our community showed up in force. Local folks wrote letters. Some folks from Sarasota came up with me when I was up there for lobby days with Equality Florida. But I mean, we shut everything down. We'll see the next time we get to the legislature being back in session if we see as much work. But this is exactly why we have to support the LGBT community and support local activities like the #WeSupport campaign that Harvey Milk is putting on. And this is why we have to educate, because a lot of those bad bills that are trying to legislate discrimination are based on bad information. It's not based on the statistics. And if we get that information out, I remain positive and hopeful. And that's also something that's important to spread in these trainings. When you look at the research and the statistics, it's appalling. When you look at anxiety, depression, and suicide rates, when you look at the outcomes, when we see discrimination based on employment or housing, when we see, young trans women of color struggling to maintain employment and housing and being kicked out with no place to go, when we see 25% of transgender Americans without health care, like the impacts on life are important to reflect on. And it's very, it was very intentional that we came up with the #WeSupport campaign, because it means a lot of different things, but it at its easiest level, it means meeting folks where they are, right? And I have to tell you, in the context of our new world today, I'm getting on a conference call later today for LGBTQ plus leaders around the state that are working on a response around COVID-19. Some of our community members are going to have very unique needs in this, and how we do this work moving forward may be impacted for quite some time. But it is certainly about mobilizing resources and getting information out. So when we see more of our community disproportionately impacted by, say, no insurance or not with steady housing or employment, when we come out of this, how we do this work will most likely evolve. But the basic premise is still there, that we've got to get have to get our allies and our champions recognizing what the community needs and mobilizing the support. And I know we will.
We will. Listen, Nathan, we have about a minute to wrap up here, so I want to summarize some of your thoughts here, and
sure.
in about a minute, and what you want to leave our audience with. And remember, this is going to be on our archive, so people can go back and listen to it at any time, so you can use it as an educational tool as well. So what would you like to say in summary here in about 60 seconds?
Well, I'm super excited about Harvey Milk Festival launching the #WeSupport campaign. Stay tuned, I think, on social media for more information on that and supporting the work that Harvey Milk is doing. If you've got an organization or if you work in a dentist office with 6 employees and you would like to get a training, reach out, and email us. Just go to the Harvey Milk website and you can email directly through there. And we'll be happy to talk about coming out and supporting you. The pilot program and the small grant is, it will be gone very quickly, and we will be trying to find other grants, but there are a lot of organizations that can certainly support the work, outside of the community grant that we have. And let's do this together locally. Let's make Sarasota and Manatee counties more inclusive. Let's celebrate the diversity. Let's empower our LGBT community, and let's support one another. I mean, and it's more clear than ever right now, how critical that really is. And thanks for the opportunity, Steve. It's really important work, and can't wait to report back all the progress next time we talk.
Excellent. And then we'll be looking forward to having you in the future as well, because the work you're doing is so important. So I want to thank you for the audience. Thank you for listening, and we hope you have enjoyed today's discussion. This has been Coastal Progressive and Rainbow Forum on Society Bites Radio, and I have been your host, Steve Ryan.